my name is Crystal. Welcome to our kitchen. It is the weekend. We're gonna make some chicken stock. Well, no, I already made the chicken stock. We're gonna be canning up chicken stock. If it sounds quiet, it's because it is. So let's just take a moment to enjoy that. It's good. Steve has taken the kids to the dump. The town dump is on the other side of town. Our garbage was full, and so he's took the kids on the ride to go do that, and then he's also going to be stopping and picking up hay for our goats. Last weekend I canned up 3 different kinds of jam, completely restocked our pantry full of jam. Still have some open jars in the fridge, so we should be good on jam for a while. If you are interested in that video, I will have it linked in the description. Also, yesterday I canned up jellied cranberry sauce. I'm really excited about it. It was only a couple ingredients. It's delicious, and it's the first time I've ever made it. So check out that video too. I don't know if it will be up yet. If it is, I'll have it linked down below. If not, subscribe and hit that notification button so that you know when I post it. But today, we're gonna be pressure canning chicken stock. Last Sunday I roasted a chicken, and I just roasted it in our 18-quart roaster with just lemon juice, olive oil, although I ran out of olive oil, so I used whatever was left in the bottle, added avocado oil, salt, pepper, lemon thyme, and regular thyme from our garden, and put all that together with some of our garlic, whisked that up, poured it over the chicken, got some of it inside of the chicken, and roasted it all day. And then at dinner time, I took the chicken out, cut it up. It was delicious. And then I put the bones and everything, skins, all of it, back into the roaster, added a little bit more water, let that cook down for a couple hours, and turned it off, cooled it slightly before I put it into the refrigerator. And that was Sunday night. Friday morning, I took it out, put it back in the roaster, added a whole bunch of water, and let that cook all day long. Then last night, I ran it through a mesh strainer with some cheesecloth on top and filtered out all of the bits and pieces that it was cooking in. I'm left with this beautiful chicken stock that I'm so excited to can up. There's no extra salt added, so it's just the chicken stock. Whatever salt is in there is from when I made the chicken. And I like to do that because I do the same thing with my sauces. I like to add the salt when I'm making something. So if I end up using the stock to make a soup, I will add all the salt then. Or if I use it for a gravy or whatever it is I'm using it for, I'll add the salt at that time. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So hang out with me on a Saturday. Let's can up some chicken stock. It's a good day. Let me briefly, before we get started today, show you the recipe that I'm using. Many of the things I'm using will be linked down in the description if you are interested. This is the book that I'm using. The Blue Book, Ball's Blue Book Guide to Preserving. And the chicken stock recipe is on page 105, right here. I'm gonna be skipping the prepping and most of the cooking and jumping right down into putting the stock back in the saucepan, bringing it up to a boil, and canning it from there. The jars that I'm going to be using today are the wide mouth quart-size jars. I have lids already washed from yesterday from when I canned up some cranberry sauce. I have to clean up the kitchen first and get some other things cleaned up while the kids are out of the house, and then we will get started. If you like videos like this, please remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe. Okay, Homer. Turn on those little notifications, and that way you know when we share new videos. We really appreciate you being here and watching and sharing this experience with us, and we love to hear from you. So please leave a comment down below. Okay, less talky, more worky. All right, so it's much later than before. I was outside, I harvested our peanuts and sweet potatoes, and that wasn't too great. That wasn't a great harvest, but it's okay. First thing I'm gonna do is get the chicken stock out of the fridge. Oh boy. I was really hoping for a clean sheet for me to cut through like I do, but it is not gonna happen that way. So I'm going to use cheesecloth mesh strainer. Pretty happy with that. We're gonna bring this up to a boil and prep our pressure canner. I've already cleaned out the pressure canner from last year, and now I'm gonna be adding in 3 quarts of water. I'm just going to be adding 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, and that's to prevent any staining on the jars. We have a dial gauge, and this is where the steam comes out, and then this is the weight, pressure weight that goes on top of it. One of the things you want to check with your lid is to make sure that the seal that's going in it is all the way around and pushed in. So I'm going to just sit this on top. I'm not going to lock it down. I'm just going to bring up the water inside it up to a light simmer. I'm going to ladle in the stock, leaving an inch of head space. I'm not going to be using that one. This one's chipped. have the jars sitting in the pressure canner. I'm going to turn up the burner to a 6 and just let that come up to a simmer while I clean up. Make sure that everything is good in here. It looks good, so I'm going to turn the burner up to high now, and we're going to wait for steam to come out here, and once it does, we're going to set the timer for 10 minutes. The steam is steadily coming out of the vent pipe, so I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. Alright, the timer is going off. We're going to place the pressure regulator on the vent pipe, and we're going to wait for this. You can adjust your burner depending on what you need. But it was a lot of steam coming out, so I turned it down. But I'm going to turn it back up to there, and we're going to wait. The processing time for quart-sized jars is 25 minutes, and pint-sized jars, it's 20 minutes. So there's 5 quart-sized jars in here, so I'm going to wait for it to get up to 11 pounds of pressure, and then I'm going to regulate it using the burner to stay that way and set the timer for 25 minutes. If the pressure falls below whatever it is that you need, so in our case 11 pounds, if it falls below that, I have to turn the burner back up, get it up to the 11 pounds of pressure, and then restart the timer for 25 minutes. As it starts to approach the necessary pressure, I'm going to slow the burner down just a little bit so it gets right up there at a steady point. I like to think of the burner knob as like my gas pedal on the car. So as it's approaching the speed that I want, I can adjust how fast or slow we go. So it's starting to get to the 11 pounds, so I'm going to adjust the heat a little bit. Alright, we are at 11 pounds of pressure, so I am going to turn the burner down just slightly and keep an eye on it for a second and make sure that it stays at that 11 pounds. It's starting to go over, so I'm going to turn the burner down. I have the burner at a 2. Okay, that's how low I turned it down to. Now, if you can see here, the pressure gauge is right at 11. So I'm going to set the timer for 25 minutes. Pressure canners require a lot more babysitting than a water bath canner. You do want to keep an eye on your water bath canner when you're using it, but a pressure canner, you really need to monitor and make sure that it's maintaining the pressure that you want it to, and everything, it looks okay. So now we wait 25 minutes. I'm just going to hang out around the kitchen and check on it occasionally. Alright, the timer is going off, so I'm going to turn off the timer. And then I'm also going to be turning the burner off. Let it sit here and let this slowly get back down to 0. The lock button is up, so we want that to fall down and just let it do what it's on its own. So as you can see, the pressure has fallen to 0. But in the back here, the lock button is still up, so that needs to fall also before we can open up the lid. We don't want to remove the pressure regulator either until everything has fallen to 0, because it's not safe. So we just continue to let it rest until that happens, and then we can take the pressure regulator off, make sure there's no steam coming out, and then unlock the lid. The lock button just dropped and the pressure gauge is showing 0. So I'm going to go ahead and move the regulator off. There's no steam coming out, so we should be able to safely remove the lid from the pressure canner. And depending on the kind of pressure canner you have, you might have the toggle bolts on top. This is just a Presto pressure canner, so to open it, we do this. And we're gonna lift the lid so that the steam goes away from our face. That's how those look. And I'm gonna let them sit here for 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna move them to the towel. So I've had them sitting in here for 5 minutes with the lid off. take it off, take it out here until it looks. I have 4 more jars, so I need to add some more water because of evaporation. I've got 2 quart-sized jars and 2 pint-sized jars. Alrighty friends, we have reached the end of the video. We have canned up 9 jars of chicken stock, 7 quart-sized jars, and 2 pint jars. I thought about doing just the 8 quart-sized jars, but I like the idea of having a couple small ones just in case I need to add a little bit here and there and don't need maybe a full quart-sized jar. So that's it. The next thing is they are gonna sit here on the counter for overnight into tomorrow, and then I will evaluate about taking the bands off, checking the lids, making sure that they are sealed properly by doing the little test as you've seen in some of my other videos possibly, and then I will put a label on them and put them in our pantry. It'll be really nice having some chicken stock again. I haven't had it in a while other than what I buy at the store. But that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for joining me today while I canned up some chicken stock. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!